I equipped my Claude Code with Blender skill. Also, I gave him access to best APIs such as 3D generation, image generation, computer vision, and much more, enabled bypass permission mode, and told him to do one task to create me this location in 3D. I let this guy cook as much as he can, and what happened is not what you expected, guys. I'm gonna reveal to you soon, but first, why Claude Code? Claude himself is absolute beast in coding, and Blender behind the scenes is basically Python scripts, and we also got an amazing Blender MCP recently. But Claude Code allow you to scale it even further and remove all of that headache with UI, setting up skills and stuff. You can simply run Claude with dangerously skip permission and let this guy cook, which we're gonna do in this video. I'm gonna show you some cool, really usable examples. So first, how do you install it? What you see on my screen is Blender 5.1 open. So that's basically the latest version that we need. We need Blender and official Blender MCP. Again, this is like a new official MCP, which is released just recently. Do not mess it up with the community developed MCP. All links to full tutorial with all skills and stuff will be in the description, guys, absolutely for free. So here we need to install the add-on and activate it in Blender. That's extremely simple. We can even just drag and drop this guy and drop him to the Blender like this. My extension is already installed, but to verify that it's installed, you're gonna go to edit preferences, then in add-ons you're gonna see this MCP. So what you need to make sure that this server is running and the auto start is set to active. So whenever you will run the Blender, the MCP will be automatically start. Very convenient. You do it once and forget. And the second part is Claude Code. So I believe, guys, you know how to install Claude Code. I'm gonna skip that part, but here is how you connect it to the Blender and all the skills. The cursor now is in empty folder, and I'm gonna go and open a terminal. So in my terminal, I'm gonna start it with dangerously skip permission, guys, because I don't want it to ask any stuff. I'm gonna give him a task and I'm gonna just wait until it's done. Disclaimer, I do not recommend to do that, but I will do that anyway. If you're not sure about the risk, maybe start with Claude and approve actions manually. You'll get the same results, but in second case, you're gonna need to approve actions. Now, I'm gonna need to install Blender MCP server. How it's done? Super easy. I prepared .md file with instruction that you can drag and drop into the folder with the Claude, and it will be installing everything manually. Let's do that. Here you can see the instruction, and this instruction also includes full AI, which is optional, but if you want it to be connected to the best APIs, such as image generation, 3D generation, vision model, segmentation, all that stuff on full AI, but you have to replenish credits first. I'm gonna do that for you guys, but note, this is optional. Okay, so now we're gonna just drop this file to Claude and say install all stuff. And we just need to wait. All right, it's done, and here we can see the output. So it actually suggests to install the add-on if you didn't. We just did. And then we do have a full AI key. Again, it's optional. So you're gonna go in .env, that's a protected file, and you're gonna place it here. So that's how it will be accessed by Claude Code. This is the best practice to keep your keys only in .env file. Now, after MCP are created, you need to restart the Claude session once to get it to see Blender. Let's do that. I'm gonna kill previous terminal and open it again with the continue command that will actually get me back to my previous session. All right, so we are back and we restarted. Now let's test the connection. Simple command to check if it can see my scene. And yes, we are connected and we can see some stuff. So that was all set up. If you add full AI key, and it will also have the access to full AI APIs. Now let's do some serious tests. The first test will be to do an animation of a character that will be split in parts. The first test will be to create an animation of a character that will be an angel. So here is my character. I actually created it in Tripo, then split into the parts in Hunyon, and then texture it again in Tripo. So you'll see the whole process, and the idea is simple. We're gonna put it in the scene and tell the Claude to do the following two things. First, simulate how it drops on the floor so the parts are scattered naturally. So we need him to run simulation. The second part of the thing is to do animation, but not just simple assembly animation, but as like a tornado animation. So are you ready to look at this guy cooking? I am. Also, I prepared all the prompts. They are here. The complete prompt on the screen, you can pause to take a look, but I also created it with Claude Code and reviewed it a little bit. Okay, so let's run. And guys, I already created one video about it. I was showing it how to do it on the Claude desktop, and I also showed quite a lot of cool cases. There we was doing like keyboard animation, but it was simple and I really wanted to try something more. Again, I read all your comments and I decided like to give it like another try and make it more complicated, see like how far I can actually push it. And all examples in this video will be way more difficult than there. But if you use Claude desktop, also take a look on that video. The first attempt was not successful because it actually not simulated the falling apart, but the tornado animation was more or less. So I actually provided with the feedback and I started to do the next round. But now the animation was sort of like fragmented, also not good. So I gave it like one more feedback to see if it actually can fix it. And here you see it actually start cooking again. It was thinking for a long time, but not spending that much tokens. So I don't know, like it was actually evaluating quite a lot of stuff. And then actually I got very interesting results, but I was not happy because it was like very slow tornado assembly. And after just two more iteration, one to fix the animation consistency and another to add one more extra spin in the very final, we have this beautiful animation. And I think it's actually looked very nice. So there was a proper simulation from assembly, so it like scattered parts, like it falls apart. And here you can see the results. This required total 5 iteration, initial prompt and 4 revision, and we got those results. To be honest, I would not be able to do that manually. It's not the perfect animation still, but the fact it was done so fast is actually fascinating. Now let me show you one more example, and this is how I actually use it in my work. This is about geometry nodes, and by far I think this is like the most useful case so far. So geometry nodes is anything like that you can add to any object and stuff, and I already showed like in my previous video how we scattered objects around the plane, so we saved enormous amount of time like positioning them, and that was super fun and easy, and I actually did it in one prompt. Now let's try to push it a little bit further. I do have this scene and there is a water surface. It's not animated, it's just a plane, and here's the prompt that you will see on the screen. The idea is to animate it, so it will be animated as a bubbles, and I also want geometry nodes where I see parameters so I can control how big the bubbles is, like how frequent and stuff. Let's get to it. So this one was easier at the beginning, but when it created me the first version, it was too big and too pixelated. Here you can see the results. Okay, and yeah, I mean the bubbles was extremely big, so it was not taking into account the world scale, but it was impressive that it actually did like almost perfectly, like in terms of like the task, except the sizes. Okay, so I actually provided the feedback that we need more resolution and bubbles should be like 3 times smaller. And then it starts to do debugging. It was actually very fun to watch because it was enabling, disabling the render, hiding objects to see the water because it was covered by other objects. It did not delete anything at all. Everything's safe, no problems so far, guys. And I tested like quite a lot in the recent days and nothing was deleted. And here you can see that the results starting to get better and better and better. And finally, with a few tips from me, I was able to get quite interesting results. Here in the end, I had to simplify shading so you can see it better because my scene was initially set for cycles render. And yeah, here we go. So the animation run and we can control the parameters like the bubbles strength, the frequency and the spread speed. And in this mode, you can see it more obvious. I think that's very cool, guys, right? Look, I did not touch anything, any geometry node. I don't even know like how it created that. 2 prompts and I have this amazing result. So what about that island that our Claude cooking? So first of all, how did I come up with that test? Well, actually I tried something like this before, but recently I saw some guy build up the tool called Image Blast. That's basically a skill for Claude Code again that uses World Marble and Fall AI with Hunyuan to create these amazing worlds. Look, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. And I actually tried out. The setup is actually very similar and I actually forked it a little bit to do my test. So here's how it works. So you basically clone that image blast. The link will be somewhere in the description, and you need to provide it with two keys: full AI API that will be used to create 3D objects inside the scene, and world marble to create that scene. World Labs is about to create 3D ghosts and splats, and recently they added something cool that they can actually create a collider, the real mesh, and that is actually what is that image blast about. Anyway, here's how it works. It uses quite a lot of credits, right? So each world generation might cost you up to $5, right? So you don't need to test it out. I'm gonna test it, and here's the result. And it really works. It creates the world with World Labs, and also it opens a viewer in web. And here's the thing, it only works in web because there's a Spark JS that runs these splats, and to render it nicely in Blender it's a bit more difficult. So just like to cut the whole part. Okay, and after a few minutes it generated me the world, and I was able to preview it in Blender, and yeah, it looked nice. But the coolest thing is, again, like when you create worlds with another objects in it. And here's one more test. I created this Japan style, and you can see the objects, and the objects actually sort of interact with the environment. So behind the scene there is like a collider, but yeah, in fact this is just a Gaussian splat. It can look impressive, but in fact that's just as splats. So I decided to build up my own version that will try to do something like that in Blender. And here's the result. Well, it's not what I expected, really. I was experimenting a lot, guys. I was like, I don't know, I spent like maybe like 2 days trying to give it like all possible tools like SAM 3D for segmentation, top view and stuff, but it seems like Claude Vision is terrible. It's so nice for coding and all this operations and stuff, like writing code, but with the vision. So like I was trying to say like, okay, do the revision, like do it again, like move objects around and stuff. It's just I don't want. I can actually drop on the GitHub what I coded so far. If some of you can improve this, it will be cool to see. But the bad thing is that each world generation like this cost me quite a lot. So I was using Tripo, and I was paying $8 to create all the objects and place them around. I also connected patina, so you can see the water material is like a patina model, but this is the best result I could get. I also tried with another location, which is like ice location, similar concept, and it was disappointing. Like it could not even place the object sometimes. Like, I mean, some objects, they were rotated 90 degrees. I don't know why. I think Tripo generates it okay, nicely, but yeah. So here's the final result. It's definitely not what I expect. And I tried quite a lot. I gave him like so much credits, like how much tokens I burned, you better don't know. And guys, after I recorded the video, actually I decided to give it a try with Codex. The good thing, the same folder with same skills work with Codex. I asked Codex like to get acknowledged about all of this and make those skills Codex. So basically skills.agents files, right? Not a big thing. It actually worked well. So guys, if you use Codex, you can pretty much use the same setup, right? You can use my same files to install the MCP here, or blah blah blah. This pretty much works. It will just take a bit more time, but Codex will guide you through it. And what about the results? To be honest, I think it's slightly better, and I liked how it actually went through the process. Why I actually wanted to do that is that Codex has way better vision model, and it is sort of like these modalities are inside the core model. And what I can say that the scale of the ice, it was generated with patina, and the scale is it's a bit of mess here, but it added like a mapping, and it added the mapping and did the right scale, which is great. And objects positioned nicely. I actually set the logic, and you can see in even small pieces, boom boom boom, they are on the ground. Codex actually did it slightly better. Well, not significant, as you can see. This is still not usable. Just if you wondered like how Codex will do that, here you see the result. And I will drop this project on the Git with all the skills that I used to create this. You can check it yourself. It's quite expensive to experiment experiment. Almost $8. This is for generate 3D models, call image generation, different passes, and generate like patina, PBR materials and stuff. And if you have ideas how to improve that, you can also take a look. But we are not done testing. So here's one more complex test. We're gonna try to retarget animation. So I created this character in triple. So we're gonna go to Accurig and rig the character there. Accurig is free, by the way, and it does quite nice rig. You can preview the animation here and it looks not that bad actually. I really start using Accurig quite a lot. But there is a downside, right? The Accurig animations are mostly paid. So I was thinking like, what if I write my retargeter and I will just take Mixamo animation and apply it for my Accurig character. I mean, easy money save, right? So let's bring my character to Blender, and I also go to Mixamo, and here I found like this animation. Well, of course, twerk dance, why not, right? And we're gonna download it as FBX, and here you can see the mannequin from Mixamo and our character. So it is actually a challenging task. The skeletons are not the same. You can see there's difference in bones. As character creator, skeleton has more bones, Mixamo has less bones, and also there is quite different rotation. And this by far was most challenging task. The prompt will be on the screen, and also like some backstage story is that first I did a very wrong prompt. I said like they do have the same rest pose. The rest pose is the original pose, but I was mistaken because character creator exported T-pose as animation frame. So I spent like an hour, and eventually Claude just said to me, wait, but the rest pose is not as you said. And that was so funny because I just realized, oh my days, right? He's right. And I had to rewrite the prompt and start it over. So here's the second attempt, and it did quite a lot. It was double checking himself. It was doing like some poses, retarget and stuff. There was problems with the arms and stuff, and it was trying to fix himself. I provided the feedback sometimes. Mainly there was the issue with the hands, and actually one time Blender just crashed, but I don't know how, but whenever I opened the Blender, it was restoring it. The same moment, I just told Claude that whatever you do is crashing Blender. Here you can see the prompt, and it stopped doing it. Then he realized that he broke the model and reverted it to some working condition. Okay, so here's the final result. So overall, it actually managed to do 90% of it, right? So except the arms, something with the shoulder, there's a difference in the bone, as I said, like, and the wrist, right? The wrists are completely something like the fingers are mirrored or something. But all the rest, like such as leg and body and head, actually retargeted very nice, right? Here you can see the skeletons, they're quite different, right? So even like in arms, I tried to fix it a lot. It wasn't able to do that. Maybe we need Claude 4.95 or mid-test model. He will definitely manage to do that. But my idea was like, if I made it work, then the next thing I tell Claude is to create me an add-on so I can select two skeletons and retarget the animation, because I already see like that it works. But speaking of add-ons, that can be actually very useful. And I saw some guy on LinkedIn showing how he created an add-on for Blender that actually tracks his head and created parallax effect. He also using the same setup. Here you can see what he created. Quite fun. And drop the comment, guys, what you created or how you tested it. I'm super excited about this now. I'm doing a lot of tests. It will be cool to learn more. That was Steph. Like and subscribe, and I see you in the next video.